Hi, everyone. It's time for our third session, which is on high growth careers. This is a topic that is part of my everyday work at the Department of Education because at the core of my job, it is to help you get a job in a high growth or a high demand career. And so before we dive into this too much, I just want to take a minute and make sure you understand what we're talking about. A high growth or a high demand industry is one where there's going to be a lot of job openings in the future, which means they want to hire people and they think there's going to be a hard time to find enough people with the right skills to hire for those jobs. So an example would be to say, let's say our whole class, let's say all 30 people in this class decide that they want to be a computer scientist. And you all graduate from school or you all finish school ready to be a computer scientist. Okay, so there's 30 of us. But there's only 10 jobs out there in Delaware for computer scientists. How many of you are going to get a job? Yeah, right. Not many of you. Okay. So my job would be is to say, well, I don't want to make 30 computer scientists when they only want 10. Now let's look at so that would not be a high demand or a high growth industry. Let's look at this a different way. Let's say all 30 of you are going to finish and be ready to be computer scientists. And there's 100 jobs for computer scientists out there. That would be considered a high demand or a high growth industry. It means even though all of you are going to be ready to be computer scientists, there's still more jobs out there than there are of you to fill those jobs. That's what we're talking about here. And so when you're thinking about what type of job you want down the road or what you want your career to be, you want to try to find one that will fall in a high growth industry or a high demand industry, because it means it's going to be easier for you to find a job and the pay is probably going to be better in those jobs. You don't necessarily, I have a really good friend who's an archaeologist, and he used to be a historian. And he was a historian that specialized in taverns or motels in the 1700s. Like that was his thing. There were not jobs for people that specialized in taverns in the 1700s and 1800s. So he always had a really hard time getting a job and a really hard time making a lot of money, because unless you really had a need for that person that knows that really specific thing, there was no reason to have that job. So you want to find a job in an area where your skills are going to be needed. Really, really important. My job is to help identify where those areas are and then get students interested in getting jobs in those fields. So this is a really important part of what I do. And I have to look and see when an employer comes and says, hey, I need computer scientists. One of my first questions I ask is, well, how many do you need? And how much are you going to pay them? Because if they can't prove that there's going to be a lot of job openings and they can't prove that they're going to pay those people enough money that they can support their family, then I am not going to go out and convince you to be a computer scientist. It wouldn't be in your best interest. So when you're thinking about your career, one of the most important things after, am I going to love it and am I going to make enough money, is will those jobs exist? Now, it's really important to understand that the world changes and it changes all the time. So you might go on to become a computer scientist when you finish school, but 5 years later, we don't need computer scientists anymore. We need a different type of job. And a whole bunch of computer scientists will lose their jobs. You've got to be able and ready to do what we call upskilling, meaning get more skills, or to cross-skill, which means to find a way to apply your skills to another place, another industry, another type of job. So you've always got to be ready to change with the times and to change with what employers and the economy want and need. Almost nobody gets a job now and stays in that same job their entire life or for that same company. Or or doesn't have to learn anything new once they get the job. You will always be learning new things. You'll always be getting better at what you already know how to do. But you really want to make sure right now that when you're thinking about your future and you're thinking about what type of job or industry you want to work in, that you're picking an industry that's high growth or high demand. And so you're going to learn about some of those through our Junior Achievement of Delaware program. There are really great websites out there that can tell you about this. Your teacher knows how to get access to those. You should take time to talk to parents and other adults about what they do, and if it's easier to get a job or not, and just spend some time right now just trying to figure it out and think about roughly where you might want to land in the future. And I'm going to go back to make sure it's something you're going to enjoy. Make sure that it's going to pay enough money for you to support yourself and a family, and make sure it's an industry where there's going to be lots of jobs. Otherwise, it's probably not worth going after, or it's going to be really, really hard if you do manage to get into that space. And you're probably going to find yourself moving around a lot as you get older. If you'd like some advice, I can tell you, I think in the next few years, by the time you're old enough to enter the workforce, healthcare will still be high in demand. Information technology, so anything to do with computers or coding, data, able to use data, will be very high demand and will pay very well also. And what we call the skilled trades. So if you're an apprentice, a registered apprentice, if you go on to become a journey person, you become like an expert plumber, an expert carpenter, an electrician, a manufacturing tech. Those are all high demand industries, and probably will be for at least the next 10 years and have really good prospects. So do your research, go out and do a job shadow, go out and do like work-based learning when you're able to do it. But try to focus on high demand industries. That's where the jobs are going to be. That's where you're going to get paid more. And you're also going to find something that you love in those spaces. You just need to figure out how do your skills fit into that industry. Good luck. It's always going to change. That's part of the fun. And you get to constantly kind of reinvent yourself and change who you are and what you do. But aim for the high growth industries and you can't go wrong.